Well, you know what that music means. Our buddy's back.
It's not unusual to be loved
Astronaut
by anyone.
Dr. Tom Jones joining us
It's not
again
unusual
on
to
the
have
wall.
fun with anyone.
Happy Monday, Dr. T. Welcome back. So let's talk about Jupiter first. I understand it's going to be shining bright tonight after sunset. We got some cloud cover tonight, and it never rains in South Texas. And then one of the few times it actually decides to rain and give us cloud cover is on the night where Jupiter's supposed to be shining bright tonight. So you're going to be watching it tonight where you're at?
Well, the good news is that there's no worry about just missing one night because all summer long Jupiter is going to be very visible in the night sky. So it just happens to be that tonight is the time when it's exactly lined up with the sun, the Earth, and Jupiter. And so we look out in the night sky and see it coming up, and it's right at sundown, and it's up all night long till sunrise the next morning. And we're at the closest point to Jupiter in our orbit and its orbit, so it's brighter than usual. But it's a great planet to go and take a look at.
Looking southeast, right? As soon as the sun goes down, that's where you need to go look. Southeast?
It'll be in the southeast, that's right.
Okay. They say that you'll be able to see maybe with some of the telescopes, you'll be able to see the red spot on it. How about the monolith, though, the one that's floating there out there somewhere, like the one in 2000?
Well, they painted it black, so we won't be able to spot the monolith.
See that one.
You know, I took a little model of the monolith up on my last shuttle trip. I used a sharpening stone from the hardware store. It was just the perfect shape and color to float that in the spacecraft there. So that was my tribute to 2001 since we were flying in 2001.
I saw your post the other day on Facebook. You were next to a space shuttle. Which one was it, Doc, that you went to see the other day? Was that the one that you flew on?
Up here in Northern Virginia, I'm very close to the Udvar-Hazy Center, which is part of the National Air and Space Museum. And so Discovery is on display there. That's the orbiter that I can visit periodically. So
nice.
It's looking gorgeous and just like...
What is that like? Seriously, Dr. T, what is that like? You flew on that space shuttle several times, right? Or how many times did you fly in there?
Well, 4 times altogether, but I missed Discovery. I was just never in line to fly when Discovery was in the cycle. So, you know, I was on Endeavour, Columbia, and Atlantis. But they're sister ships. They're almost identical. So seeing Discovery gives me a thrill. It's the most experienced of the remaining shuttle orbiters.
What it must be like. You're standing out there, you're watching, for example, Discovery, and you know all the nooks and crannies, all the crevices. You know all the inside of it. You know where everything is inside. Do they allow you to go inside to near the cockpit, or is it just you?
Well, I wish.
Right?
I wish. No, you know, for the Smithsonian, they're trying to make sure that space shuttle orbiter is just the same in 100 years as it is today. And, of course, the traffic into and out of the cabin would degrade.
Did they gut it, or is it still the instrumentation, all the panels, is it still there?
Almost completely intact from the time it landed. And that's because they wanted one fully, engineering precise model of the shuttle orbiters. You know, now Endeavour out in California, Atlantis is down in Florida. They have given up some of their spare parts for reuse. You know, NASA has recycled some of the components and built them into the space station, for example, to store water up there. So that's allowed, but we have to keep one, the Smithsonian's Discovery, just the way it was when it touched down.
So in the event that we have a Texas-sized meteor headed this way, the Discovery would be the one that's called into action because it's pretty much intact to put the oil derrick crew out there to try to blow it up, right?
We've got a more powerful rocket than the shuttle. It'll do that. So the Space Launch System will take care of that. Don't worry about it.
Dr. Tom Jones, astronaut, NASA astronaut, joining us on the wall. What is this that I hear that NASA is opening up a bed and breakfast on the International Space Station? $50 million trip, like $35,000 a night, something like that?
Pretty exciting, yes. So NASA has opened the space station to visitation from private astronauts, or tourist astronauts, if you will. And previously, since 2001, when the first space tourist went up on a Russian rocket, the space station has only been visited via Russian Soyuz rockets. And the Russians have charged people, roughly 30, and then the price has been going up to over $50 million now. But it hasn't happened very often because the Soyuz is fully subscribed almost with transporting Americans as well as Russian cosmonauts to the space station. Now, next year, I hope late this year, we'll have the first test flights of crews going up on American rockets from Florida to the space station, and that'll open up some opportunities now. So the private American companies, SpaceX and Boeing in this case to begin with, they will have extra seating capacity for carrying a tourist up along with a NASA crew, for example. Wow. So you might be able to sign up for a 30-day visit up there. And then Boeing and SpaceX can be expected to expand that business eventually to a private space station. But for the near term, the big change in policy is that, yes, NASA will let you visit, and they'll charge you for your room and board up there. And you also have to pay the millions to the transportation company, SpaceX or Boeing. So the total ticket price is going to wind up being, in the $40 to $50 million range.
It's the airport shuttle that will get you, the fee for the airport shuttle to and from.
Yeah, and all they have to do for competition purposes is undercut the Russian price, and they'll have a market.
Okay, so what is there to do? You would know. What is there to do on the International Space Station to entertain you for 30 days?
It's fantastic. So I was there for a week helping build it, and we installed one of the big modules, the U.S. Destiny Science Lab up there. When you're there, you have a superb view of the planet. There's a feature called the cupola with 7 windows that look down at the Earth, and so you have a superb view of the planet. So I would expect tourists would spend a lot of their spare time there. NASA's also open to the idea of using one of their docking ports to install a commercial activity module. So it would be a rent-a-room that NASA would let commercial companies lease or even pay for completely and own it, and that commercial module could be used to film TV commercials or conduct entertainment programming. So you might have visiting folks come up there and produce a commercial entertainment products like movies, or do commercial manufacturing in space. That would be the more likely route that you'd see. So tourists and private space workers could be part of this picture.
Author of Ask the Astronaut and also author of Skywalking, NASA astronaut Dr. Tom Jones, my guest right now on the wall. How much privacy can you expect on the International Space Station? I mean, for 30 days, you're pretty much like part of the crew, right? Might they give you something to do? Like, yeah, hold this while I do some telemetry, something like that.
That's a good question. You'll get some basic training on how to survive the trip up there and back, run the emergency systems on these spacecraft, how to handle a fire extinguisher in space, that kind of thing. But then you'll get trained on the life support systems and the dining system and the hygiene system on the space station. So you'll be sharing these facilities with other crew members, both from NASA and the partner space agencies up there.
Oh, so you don't have like your own restroom and your own shower and all that, like in your own hotel room?
Nope. There's 2 bathrooms on the station, so you're going to share one of them. The Russians have one on their side, their end, and the NASA folks have one. And so, you would be expected to keep that clean, uphold your end of the housekeeping duties. And yeah, you may be asked to chip in and do some.
There's no housekeeping? Nobody to do my bed?
Yeah, no, housekeeping's not coming by. So you got to be entirely self-sufficient. Think of it as a really adventurous camping trip. That's what this is going to be like.
To the tune of $50 million. Yeah.
That's right. And tell you what, I won't argue with the value. I think if you can stay up there for a month in space, it would be worth a fortune to have that experience. And I'm hoping that the price will come down with competition with the advent of private space stations. That's the eventual hope that NASA will transition this out to a private space station that will host guests, and then the ISS can be, given over to commercial companies entirely in the next 10 years or so.
For us, our new neighbor, Elon Musk and his kids over here at SpaceX setting up shop at Brownsville, we're all excited about seeing the first rocket launched from Brownsville, Texas. But do you think we will send people from Brownsville into space? I know we can send payload, but we're not Florida. We're not California. I don't know if we have the facilities to house the future astronauts here and then get them ready to transport. And I don't even know if we need something. Maybe they can do it up in Houston, then just drive down to Brownsville and then hop aboard the SpaceX rockets. What do you see as the role of the private spaceport, this first ever private spaceport that SpaceX is going to be using here pretty soon? What do you see its role?
Well, first satellite launches.
Okay.
And that will be the big business to begin with. Tests of the new large rocket, that Musk is proposing for getting out into interplanetary space.
Cool.
So that will all take place from there. But if it makes financial sense for him to disentangle his company from having to use the Air Force's test range in Florida, and he gets more freedom to operate by being the sole operator at the Brownsville spaceport, then there's no reason to think that he might not transition human operations there, especially once we go to the mode of having a private space facility like a hotel or a commercial lab that's then visited by private space workers or tourists. That would be a perfect place to run that operation.
Jeff Bezos has his eyes set on the moon. He's also mentioned that he would love space tourism. Richard Branson, he's a big fan of setting up something like that as well, going up to
Sure.
To the edge of space, maybe tourism. Elon Musk goes without saying he has his sights set on Mars. NASA said, okay, because of all these guys that are developing their own technology and their product and services, NASA says the moon by 2024 and likely will depend highly on all these private dudes to get that cargo, human cargo and other cargo, to the moon. Do you think they can do it by 2024 as they planned?
Yes, I do technically think they could do it, but it will require a bump in NASA funding to the tune of about 10% increase over their 0.5% of the federal budget that they get today. So to increase the $20 billion NASA budget to $22 billion would be enough annually to do that in 5 years. But if the budget is just left flat by Congress, then this won't happen in 5 years. It will take until the late 2020s. And there is, to keep in mind, there is competition from China. So they plan to put their people on the moon by 2030. And if they can do it and we can't by that date, then they will be the number one space exploration power.
Wow. Well, we better be nice to the Chi-Coms because we might need to send them to Mars to save someone. Maybe we strand on Mars. More references to movies. Dr. T, I appreciate you checking in. Look, and I hope we have enough lead time knowledge of when SpaceX is actually going to launch a rocket from Brownsville. We'd love to see you down here, Dr. T. Maybe as for the inaugural launch from SpaceX, a private spaceport at Brownsville. Sometime
what a thrill that would be.
Yeah, that would be sometime this year. We're expecting it to be sometime this year if everything's on schedule. Thank you, Dr. T. Astronaut Dr. Tom Jones, an author, Ask the Astronaut, and also Skywalking. And Dr. Jones, he makes the rounds. He goes around the nation talking with school kids and universities. If you'd like to give him a call, it's easy to remember, astronauttomjones.com. Astronauttomjones.com. If you'd like to book him, come over to South Texas and speak with your kids. Time is 10:34. This is The Wall. News Talk 710 KURV. Talk line is 800-580-8255.